The Kenya Bora Tuitakayo speaks to these 6 things, that there will be justice in this country, there will be undugu, which is solidarity, there will be amani, and also liberty, which is freedom, and we are talking about raha and ustawi. Ustawi is economic and social prosperity of the country. That's the country that the people of Kenya fought for in the first liberation for independence. The Honorable Raila Odinga, Right Honorable Raila Odinga, is easily the most consequential politician Kenya ever held. There was Jomo Kenyatta, there were brilliant politicians like Tom Mboya, you know, Jaramogi Oginga is the father, Moi, and all this. But Raila probably is the most consequential politician. That's how I've described him, because he not only led us in the reform movement to deliver the new constitution, which he will be remembered for. He will also be remembered for devolution. He will be remembered, you know, for political organizing of parties. ODM was easily the most organized political parties that we have ever had since KANU. The president has actually now established, has allowed foreigners to establish military barracks and bases all over the country, from Manda to Wajir to Karen, everywhere. We are not a sovereign country anymore. If our forefathers who fought for independence were to wake up and see what has become of Kenya, they will die again. They will die again the second time. So in summary, the constitution that we fought for, died for, bled for, has actually been shredded. It does not even function. The president does not even regard the constitution. He does what he wants when he wants. It is the people who should check the track record. There is nobody, by the way, who has been elected and the people got surprised when he's in office. Every thief who steals when they are in office was a thief before. You have heard of people who ran down parastatos. You've had people who escaped from prison and then became governors. Yes. How can you trust that kind of a person with your billions? You trust somebody with 45 billion who escaped from prison, and then you get surprised when the money is stolen and the services are not provided. Let us be candid with ourselves. The people of Nairobi and the people of Kenya actually know who the thieves in this country are.
Tell us all about the Kenya Bora Tuitakayo movement. What is it and what does it aim to achieve?
Thank you very much, Raphael. And we launched Kenya Bora Tuitakayo as a movement in 2018. But actually the idea of Kenya Tuitakayo is a 1996 concept. We developed Kenya Tuitakayo as a vision in 1996, and we launched NCEC. NCEC was responsible for advocating for a new constitution. Then we were headed by Professor Kivuza Kibwana and Dr. William Mutunga, Gibson Kamau Kuria, and the likes of Njoya and Feroz Noroji. You know most of these leaders who are in NCEC. That is when we developed the vision of Kenya Tuitakayo. Kenya Tuitakayo as a vision is found in the first stanza of the national anthem. It's in the first stanza of the national anthem, and it has 6 important things in the first stanza, as you would see. Haki hiwe ngao na mlinzi. So haki is the first thing. Undugu, amani, uhuru, and then raha na ustawi. raha na ustawi. Those are the things that Kenyans collectively aspire. That's the Kenya Tuitakayo. The Kenya Bora Tuitakayo speaks to these 6 things: that there will be justice in this country, there will be undugu, which is solidarity, there will be amani, and also liberty, which is freedom, and we are talking about raha and ustawi. Ustawi is economic and social prosperity of the country. That's the country that the people of Kenya fought for in the first liberation for independence. And then we went into the second liberation when the dictatorship of both Kenyatta and Moi destroyed the foundations of the country that people were aspiring to. And then in 1996, we relaunched the vision for Kenya Bora Tuitakayo. So after we got the new constitution in 2010, you saw that between 2010 and 2018, the country completely went off the grid. Why? Because Kenyans voted for the people who were indicted in the ICC. So when President Uhuru and Ruto were elected or were put in office, because that election was contested, if you remember, we realized that we need to come back as the people of Kenya to actually continue with the vision that we had for the Kenya Bora Tuitakayo, because Uhuru and Ruto took us off from the vision of Kenya Bora Tuitakayo. That's how we relaunched Kenya Bora Tuitakayo in 2018, and we have been doing some activities across the country. And on May 15th, we will be marking 8 years since we relaunched Kenya Bora Tuitakayo as a movement, and we have been doing a lot of activities through the courts, on the streets, through various advocacy work that we have been doing, civic education, mashinani, across the country, so that we can be able to recover the Kenya Bora Tuitakayo. The last activity we just concluded was last week, between Wednesday and Friday, when we were having the National Interests Conference. The National Interest Conference at the showground at Jamhuri. So that is how we've been working and pushing for the vision of Kenya Bora Tuitakayo.
You have actually given a very impressive history of taking back to 1996. That was the year we are also dealing with the IPPG reforms.
IPPG now was 1997.
97.
Yes, yes. Mm-hmm.
And let me get to understand this. Since the Constitution of 2010 up to today, do you feel we still have that spirit of constitutionalism that made us agitate for it? Do you feel we have done justice to this constitution as a nation?
That's a very important question, Raphael, and I would say that as a country we have actually performed very poorly. And if you go through the chapters of the constitution, because that's how we audit. Last year on August 27th, we did the 15th audit of constitutional implementation. Let me start from the ones that are very visible for you to see that out of 10, we are at 3 out of 10 in terms of how we are implementing the constitution.
That's very poor. That's not even a D.
That is very poor, actually. If it was a student, you were going to declare that they have failed. Let's start from chapter 11 on devolution. Devolution was the dream of the constitution. But if you look at how counties are being run, they have actually become a center for devolved corruption, devolved incompetence. And so the goods are not being provided. When you go to chapter 12, we are talking about public finance. In this country, money is managed very badly. That's chapter 12 on public finance. So we've gone, you look at devolution, and you will agree with me that you can't say that devolution has done better than 3 out of 10. When you go to public finance, you can see how Ruto is managing public finances. Uhuru was even worse. Not that Ruto has made it even any better, but when you talk about a country that is 12.3 trillion in debt, and you have seen the Auditor General and the Controller of Budget saying that the Treasury has been borrowing money for projects that are not even existing. One of them is that they borrowed money for Kenya Power to lay underground cables. But Kenya Power is not even aware that money has been borrowed for it to lay underground cables.
That was so embarrassing.
So that summarizes for you chapter 12 on public finance management, that we are deeply in debt and we are borrowing money to steal. So people are becoming billionaires in this country, buying choppers and building skyscrapers all over this place, but not with money they have earned out of business, but they have stolen from the exchequer. Kenyans are poorer, they are richer. So that's chapter 12. When you come to chapter 10 on the judiciary, which was the only chapter that we had hope on, look at how the judiciary has been run down. It is now steeped in corruption. Judges are taking money openly to give people judgments. Go to chapter 9 on the executive and look at how the president is abusing power. In 2024, we actually took President Ruto to court. We took a constitutional petition because he had violated the constitution 31 times. A president who is not supposed to violate it even once, but he had already violated it 31 times in 2024. Right now we are at 38 times violation of the constitution, including using State House to conduct UDA meetings. That has never happened since independence. It is Uhuru who started holding political party meetings in State House, which is a violation of Article, Chapter 9 of the Constitution on the functions of the presidency. I can go on. Even if you were to come to chapter, chapter 6 on leadership and integrity, there's no leadership and integrity in this country. You see a president who stands on top of a motor vehicle and unleashes insults, which is against chapter 6 and Article 73 and 75 of the Constitution, which says that you will not bring disrepute to the office that you hold in trust for the people of Kenya. So you can see that every chapter of the Constitution in this country, go to chapter 4. Chapter 4 is the one that is on the Bill of Rights. You've seen what has happened in this country. Abductions, extrajudicial killings. People cannot even have the right to demonstrate, the right to protest, even to petition government. We have a country where all human rights have now been criminalized by the state. That's chapter 4. You go to chapter, to chapter 1, which speaks about the sovereignty of the people. Kenya is no longer a sovereign country. The people are not sovereign. The president has actually now established, has allowed foreigners to establish military barracks and bases all over the country, from Manda to Wajir to Karen, everywhere. We are not a sovereign country anymore. If our forefathers who fought for independence were to wake up and see what has become of Kenya, they will die again. They will die again the second time. So in summary, the constitution that we fought for, died for, bled for, has actually been shredded It does not even function. The president does not even regard the constitution. He does what he wants when he wants.
He actually opposed it.
He opposed it, and we trusted him. Kenyans trust the person who opposed the constitution to implement it. That's why constitutional implementation in this country is a shame. So when I tell you that we can only score 3 out of 10, some people believe that we are actually doing worse than 3 out of 10. So that is my short response to that. Kenya is no longer a sovereign country. The people are not sovereign. The president has actually now established, has allowed foreigners to establish military barracks and bases all over the country, from Manda to Wajir to Karen, everywhere. We are not a sovereign country anymore. If our forefathers who fought for independence were to wake up and see what has become of Kenya, they will die again. They will die again the second time. So in summary, the constitution that we fought for, died for, bled for, has actually been shredded. It does not even function. The president does not even regard the constitution. He does what he wants when he wants.
He actually opposed it.
He opposed it, and we trusted him. Kenyans trust the person who opposed the constitution to implement it. That's why constitutional implementation in this country is a shame. So when I tell you that we can only score 3 out of 10, some people believe that we are actually doing worse than 3 out of 10. So that is my short response to that. Exactly.
We believe we have a very good document. Sometimes I look at parties printing manifestos and I'm like, why do you need a manifesto when you have
the constitution is there?
Constitution.
Implement it, and you will not have a problem. So I completely agree with the Chief Justice Emeritus, Dr. William Mutunga, is now Professor of Law at Kabrak University. I totally agree with him that we have a constitution that is so progressive. Even if we implemented 40%, everybody in Kenya will feel the effect of this constitution. Unfortunately, we have a president who opposed the constitution and has continued to oppose it even when he is in power. He does not respect the constitution, and he operates outside the constitution. And that is why devolution is not working. Land grabbing continues. Stealing of money from the exchequer continues. We are borrowing, and we are not even applying the funds for the projects that we are borrowing for. And so Kenyans are getting poorer, but they are still dancing and saying, oh, we want the president to continue to be there. So the question now is, if we have a president who does not respect the constitution, is he going to respect the will of the people in 2027? If they were to vote and remove him from office, will he leave office? That's the question we are asking. If we don't trust Iebc, we don't trust the Supreme Court, will the Supreme Court give judgment that is favorable to the people of Kenya and the constitution, or it will give a political judgment based on the person who appointed majority of the judges? So that is exactly the dilemma that we live in as a country right now.
You see, all these things are actually pointing to a very grim future, especially as we prepare for the 2027 election. I'm looking at, for example, the constitution of Iebc.
Exactly.
As it is, 1, it was too late. 2, some of the people inside Iebc have even been cited for corruption and other unethical ways.
Exactly.
Do you believe we'll have a good election?
It will depend on the people of Kenya. Where we are now as a people of Kenya, we have to unite and do something similar to what we did in 2002. Because we cannot rely on these institutions. They are so captured, they are so corrupt, and they are so compromised that we will have to, and that's what we are doing at Bora, we are saying we can't rely on these institutions. We have to rely on the people of Kenya. What are we going to do? We need to establish a parallel People's Electoral Commission.
How are we going to do that?
We are sovereign. That's what Article 1 of the Constitution says. Article 3 says the people must defend the Constitution. It is our obligation to defend the Constitution. Elections are provided for the Constitution in Article 38, our political right to elect our leaders. So what we are going to do is that we have organized ourselves in all the 47 counties. We are going to appoint our own directors of elections. We are going to establish our own observers. We are going to establish our own agents so that we collect election results from all the 44,000 polling stations, tally the results at the 290 constituencies, and declare the election results for the presidency, so that if Iebc gives a different result from the one of the people, and that's what the young people, the Gen Zs, are doing in this country, and we are supporting them, because our hope is in the young people of this country, not in the institutions that have been established by Ruto, which are serving his own interests. We have to now wake up as the people of Kenya and organize. At a Pan-African level, we say, don't agonize, organize. And so at Kenya Bora, we are saying we are not going to agonize about how bad things are. What we are going to do as the people of Kenya is that we are going to organize from the ward level to the polling station level to the constituency level to the county level, and we are going to take charge of our country and ensure that we not only get the correct results declared by Iebc, but the right people are in all the offices. So this is not just about the presidency alone. We are telling Kenyans that start to look for the correct women and men who are going to be the governors of your county and who are going to be the members of parliament, because we cannot allow a country where parliament is full with the money launderers, wash types, criminals who are known for drug dealing. Do you know the types of people who are in this parliament? Their records are deplorable. So we cannot sit back and say, oh, you know, Kenya now, the politicians are bad and we are going to do, we can't just cry and throw our hands. That's why I've taken responsibility for Nairobi, for example. We cannot sit and cry about our country. We've taken charge. We are going to organize in all the 47 counties. I have taken charge of Nairobi. Apart from coordinating nationally, we are coordinating Nairobi. In every ward, we have already established the committees, and we are convening the Nairobi People's Convention so that we take charge, get the right governor. That's why I'm running for the governorship. Get the right senator, get the right women rep, the 17 MPs, the 85 MCAs. They must be men and women of integrity, so that we don't come here in 2027 September and start crying and say, oh, you know, the criminals have been elected back. What did you do? You did not do anything. So as Kenya Bora Tuitakayo, we are taking responsibility for the destiny of this country. And our clarion call is that let us restore hope. Let us restore hope as people, as the people of Kenya, because we are the sovereign and we have the power to do so.
Now that you have declared that you want to run for governor of Nairobi, Nairobi is a special county.
Yes.
With special problems. Very many problems.
What about the opportunities?
Now, what kind of opportunities do you see in Nairobi, and how are you going to tap into it to change the lot of Nairobians?
That is the thing that you know, brings a lot of joy to me. People look at the problems that are there in Nairobi I look at the opportunity that Nairobi presents. What are the opportunities that Nairobi presents? First of all, this is the only city in the southern hemisphere that hosts the United Nations. There are only 3 UN headquarters: Nairobi, Geneva, and Washington, and New York. So that is where you begin from. That Nairobi is the only city in the southern hemisphere that hosts the United Nations, including the UNEP, United Nations Environmental Program, which tells you that we are supposed to be the greenest, cleanest city on earth. That's the opportunity. Not Rwanda, Kigali. It is supposed to be Nairobi. So the opportunity there is the opportunity of international connection and international resources. What is the other opportunity? Nairobi is the host to 8,000 headquarters of organizations, of companies, of agencies. 8,000 of them. You may not know how significant that is, because Nairobi has 8,000, but Kampala only has 47, and we are at 8,000. That's how big Nairobi is. So Nairobi has about 6 million residents, 85 wards, and the resources that the county of Nairobi is able to collect. Sakaja right now collects about 21 billion in terms of own source revenue. But Nairobi's capacity to collect revenue is actually at 63 billion. So we are only collecting a third of what we are able to collect. Your question is, what happens to the other 40 billion? The other 40 billion is consumed by the cartels. So Nairobi has 8 cartels. So the cartels is what you have to crash first for you to receive the billions of shillings that are currently not coming to Nairobi. Because once you collect the 63 billion, and then you get the share of revenue from the national government, which is about 22 billion, Nairobi will be having 85 billion shillings annually. So what can you do with 85 billion shillings? You just look at the 10 departments and the 10 service sectors in this city with 85 billion shillings. In the plans that we have for each of the 10 service sectors, Nairobi is the easiest county to run because it is technologically connected. It has infrastructure. You can develop infrastructure everywhere, and you can provide the services to the people at the lowest cost. Contrast Nairobi with Turkana. You see, to provide services in Turkana, which is so expansive, one part of Turkana is 460 kilometers from the other part of Turkana. But Nairobi is so small, the people are so accessible, and providing services to them is actually cheapest per capita. So we do not look at the problems of Nairobi, we look at the opportunity that Nairobi presents. If you can deal with the cartels and corruption, then you get a governor who understands governance and policy making, which is the work I've been doing for the last 25 years. Then you can be able to resolve the problems of Nairobi and provide the highest level of service to the people of Kenya. And the people of Kenya, of Nairobi, have told me, start with dealing with garbage and dirt that is choking Nairobi in all the 85 wards of Nairobi. So the opportunity is massive, and we want to entrench the leadership of Nairobi, not at the governorship, but at the residential areas. So we are talking to all the residential committees, the residents associations, so that we become the owners of Nairobi. Because if you rely on the governor alone, you cannot be able to transform Nairobi. That's the experience we got from Makueni. Makueni was transformed because Professor Kibwana, my leader in NCC, started with organizing the village committees, then the ward councils, and then the sub-county committees, so that the people themselves are the ones who budget approve the projects, and allocate the money to those projects. The people have to be in charge.
That is basically implementing the constitution.
That's how you implement the constitution.
I believe that is how the constitution tailored the issue of public participation.
Public participation, which is not being done. And that's the problem. Nobody knows what happens in Nairobi, because our MCAs, most of them are at the county government, not to oversight, but so that they can be able to get the contracts and the tenders and the projects. And they are part of the stealing that is going on in Nairobi. That we must stop. And the only way to stop it is if you organize the government to come from the people, not from the MCAs.
You know, events since last week and culminating in early this week at the Senate are not convincing. We are seeing scenarios where governors and senators are quarreling. There was a debate yesterday in the Senate which was very embarrassing, that the COG, the
Council of Governors.
Yes. The head of COG is the one who is telling governors not to attend
Senate committees,
yes,
and not to respond to Senate summons. And the excuse they are giving for that is that senators are corrupt and senators are taking money from them.
Truth. What were the facts now? Who is to blame?
All of them should be arrested, and they should tell us why were governors giving senators money.
Because that is bribery, that is corruption.
Why would I bribe you to appear before you? I bribe before you to appear before you. What am I concealing? What am I hiding? Why would I give you 50 million shillings? Because you've summoned me to come to Senate. So let's take it that what the governors are saying is true, that senators are taking money, right? Why are the governors giving senators money? Is it not so that the senators cannot scrutinize and oversight the stealing of money that is happening at the county level? That can only be the logical conclusion. So then you cannot give bribe senators and say you are not going to go to Senate because you are going to be scrutinized. You have to respect, and that's the question you asked. We have a constitution without constitutionalism. What do I mean by that? Nobody respects the constitution. Nobody follows the constitution. Nobody follows the rule of law. The constitution is very clear that Senate has powers to summon governors. Then governors come and say that they are not going to appear before Senate because they have been asked for bribes. Stop giving the bribes, appear before Senate and account for the questions that are being asked by the senators. End of the story. So that's how a country has to be governed, and governed according to the constitution. We cannot be able to have it the way we want it, that we can choose when to appear before Senate. It's like choosing when to appear before court. If the court says appear on this day, then you say on that day I'm not feeling well. On that day I'll be on safari. I cannot come to court. Then we don't have a country.
That's true. Yeah.
That's anarchy. That's anarchy. That's what governors are actually advocating for. They are advocating for anarchy itself. And we cannot allow that. So I don't like discussing Governor Sakaja because his standards have gone too low that he should not even be discussed. We know where Nairobi is, that it is a completely failed city. There's no governance in this town. When rain comes, there's flooding. When there's no rain, there is a lot of dust and there's a lot of broken drainages, sewerage, the sewage everywhere you go in this city. You actually cannot believe that we have a government that is responsible for Nairobi. And it is because all the money has been stolen to bribe MCAs and keep them quiet, and to ensure that the people in State House can be given the money the rest of the money. People have been given contracts in this city to do cleaning and garbage collection, which they do not collect. And so we have to bring a revolution to how Nairobi is actually governed. We cannot continue to operate the city the way it is currently managed. And Raphael, for us to succeed in bringing the revolution to Nairobi, we must campaign differently. We cannot bribe voters and then after spending 500 million or spending 1 billion or spending 2 billion, expect that you can go to City Hall and bring a difference to Nairobi. That is why my campaign as Mtumishi is centered in the people. It is the people who have to choose whether they want a revolution or they want things to continue the way they currently are. The choice is the people. Let us test the people. Let us give the exam to the people to choose a governor who can be able to make a difference for them. And we have to be radical and different in the way we approach it.
What worries me is elections come and go, and in between we have very sober discussions. We talk to people and you can feel that this time around people are going to make a difference. But I don't know what happens a few weeks to the election or a few months to another election. We go back to the tribal cocoons, we go back to Mtuetu syndrome, and we throw common sense out of the window. How do we cure that?
It is because, no, the people cannot be blamed. It's because we have not organized and we've not conducted civic education. If you look at the current setup, it is all ethnic. Oh, we the Luos, we the Kikuyus, we the Kambas have been left out. We are shareholders. Then when people vote on the basis of ethnicity and ukabila, then we get surprised that, the people voted. What was the campaign based on? It was based on ethnic coalitions. Oh, the Luyas will work with the Kambas and the Kikuyus and like that.
And we are discussing it so
openly.
We have normalized.
Exactly. So you see, we cannot put garbage in and expect something else out. The system works. Garbage in, garbage out. So if we want to make a difference for this country, do what I am doing in Nairobi. We've decided that we are not going to run an ethnic campaign in this city. We are not going to do an ethnic campaign. We are saying that for Nairobi to experience a difference, it has to have clean, ethical, competent leaders. Men and women who will serve without stealing money. Has it been done before? Yes, it has been done. Where has it been done? We did it in Makueni. I was there. I was part of the advisors of my friend Professor Kivuta Kibwana. We supported the civic education. We supported the organizing of citizens into village committees. So we are not talking about something we do not understand. We are talking about what we have done, and it has worked. If you organize the people, you don't need to bribe them. You don't need to bribe Nairobians for them to elect you. And we want Nairobians not to be caught in this one-term, two-term nonsense. Let Nairobi be sober and elect, not based on the coalitions and alliances, but based on the person who is offering himself or herself to lead, and let him or her declare what is different about his leadership or her leadership from what we have with Sakaja. Because we saw that Kidero was Raila's governor. Then we got Sonko, who was Uru's governor. Then we have gotten Sakaja, who is Ruto's governor. These governors who are imposed by the president serve the president. They don't serve the people of Nairobi. So we have to be clear where the problem is. The problem is that we do not elect governors for ourselves. We elect governors for the president. Even now you can see that people are doing a coalition. Gachagua is telling us that no, this time around, the governor has to be a Kikuyu under DCP. So he is inviting us to elect a governor for him. And the people are getting confused that they want to give, what is it called? Rigathi Gachagua is governor. So are we electing a governor to serve Nairobi, or we are electing a governor to serve Rigathi Gachagua? Are we electing a governor to serve William Ruto, or we are electing a governor to serve Nairobians? That is the difference we have to make, and we have to be very bold about it.
You see, this issue of governance and accountability, we can discuss it, and I still wonder, how will you ever bring to book the culprits, the people who have really messed up our country because of poor governance?
I don't know whether you are a Christian. Are you?
Yes, I am.
Yes. Because if you are a Christian, the Bible tells you in John 10 that, you know, the thief comes but to steal, to kill, and to destroy. Now you have to ask yourself why our Lord Jesus Christ did not give the example of any other sinner but chose the thief. He would have said the adulterer, the fornicator, the murderer comes to steal, to kill, and to destroy. No. So the people of Kenya are not suffering because they are not working hard. They are suffering because they elected thieves. And the Bible tells us that thieves, once they are in office, they are wicked, and they are going to steal, to kill, and to destroy. So what's the answer to your question? When you are going to the ballot in 2027, ensure that you do not elect anybody who has a record, has been mentioned in any kind of stealing, of corruption. Because once those people come to office, they steal, they kill, and they destroy. You will suffer. So the first thing that you have to do is to ensure that you elect men and women of integrity who know about Article 10 and the values of this country. The values of Kenya are in Article 10 of the Constitution. This is the civic education we are doing. And finally, if you see somebody bribing you to vote for him, that is a thief. That is somebody whose plan is to come to office to steal the money, to kill the people and destroy evidence, and so that they can be able to amass money that they didn't work for. Services cannot be provided if the money has been stolen.
But all these guys have been cleared. Chapter 6 of the Constitution is there.
They are never cleared. They are never cleared. They are never cleared. They are never cleared. What Iebc says is that it's not the one to stop people. It says, bring us a certificate
from EACC.
From EACC, and a certificate from the DCI. You see, it is the people who should check the track record. There is nobody, by the way, who has been elected and the people got surprised when he's in office. Every thief who steals when they are in office was a thief before. You have heard of people who ran down parastatos. You've heard people who escaped from prison and then became governors. Yes. How can you trust that kind of a person with your billions? You trust somebody with 45 billion who escaped from prison, and then you get surprised when the money is stolen and the services are not provided. Let us be candid with ourselves. The people of Nairobi and the people of Kenya actually know who the thieves in this country are. Then they accept when these thieves bring this stolen money to bribe them with 200 shillings. They accept it. Then they get surprised when these thieves get into office and then they steal the money and they don't provide the services. So Kenyans have to grow up and understand that services are provided using money, your taxes. If you elect somebody who steals taxes, you will not get the services. So the choice is yours as the people of Kenya. And we have to use forums like Kurunzi to actually civic educate Kenyans so that we don't repeat the mistakes we have been making since independence, where we have been electing the wrong people. And the wrong people have gotten to office and they have not provided services. Instead, they have stolen money and they have not provided the services.
Very sad scenario. Having a discussion about Raila's legacy. This is one person we worked with previously in the constitution-making process. How would you remember Raila Odinga and his role in Kenya? Political.
The Honorable Raila Odinga, Right Honorable Raila Odinga, is easily the most consequential politician Kenya ever held. There was Jomo Kenyatta, there were brilliant politicians like Tom Mboya, Jaramogi Oginga is the father, Moi, and all this. But Raila probably is the most consequential politician. That's how I've described him, because he not only led us in the reform movement to deliver the new constitution, which he will be remembered for. He will also be remembered for devolution. He will be remembered, for political organizing of parties. ODM was easily the most organized political parties that we have ever had since KANU. You understand? This gentleman, Raila Odinga, showed us how ethnic communities can live together. Ethnic communities can live together. And he was a master in coalition building. Now, he has left us. Raila went to be with the Lord on 15th of October last year. And it is not yet even 6 months, but his political party, the Orange Democratic Movement, is actually in shambles. I was a member of ODM, but I am going to vie for the Nairobi governorship as an independent candidate, because these political parties are in chaos. They are actually in tatters. They are completely chaotic, these political parties, including ODM, his political party, which he would have been remembered for organizing a party for 20 years. They were celebrating the 20 years of ODM when he passed on. You remember? Yes. He was supposed to be going to Mombasa to mark the 20 years of Raila Odinga, of ODM. So we will continue to remember him for how he stood for human rights, for how he stood for social justice, for how he stood for equitable distribution of resources, for how he stood for devolution, and for how he stood for a democratic constitution for our country. What I can say is that Edwin Sifuna represents the spirit of Raila Odinga. But William Ruto has ensured that Edwin Sifuna is kicked out of ODM, because William Ruto's agenda is to ensure that ODM is completely destroyed and reduced to become a small Luo party, And the government, the state is actually, the regime is helping a lot of people to register parties so that every county will almost have a party in the next elections. But that is what we remember about Raila Odinga, a courageous Pan-Africanist like myself, a Pan-Africanist who traveled the breadth and length of Africa. He was at one time, you remember, serving as the AU, special envoy for infrastructure. As an engineer, we remember him how he built roads when he was minister for roads. So this is one person who will be remembered by the people of Kenya, because we appreciate him very much. But unfortunately, his party has been shredded into small pieces by William Ruto, who he unfortunately supported in the broad-based government. But the people of Kenya are going to sort out this mess. We have confidence that the people of Kenya are going to sort out the mess in the ballot in 2027. They will not support William Ruto to come back.
Good.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Raphael. Asante sana. And I'm inviting everybody to register to vote in Nairobi, because this is where we work from. But when it comes to election time, people go to vote up country. So I'm encouraging everybody to, including yourself, I think you are a registered voter in Nairobi, in Kamukunji. Yes. Let us register and vote in Nairobi. This is where Kenya functions from. Let's get it right. Let us not give it, let's not take a chance again. Let's get it right. Thank you very much.